it.
Well, now I have to stop you. So, Dr. Eyolfson, it's your turn.
All right, thank you very much. I have the disadvantage of being down the list so that a lot of the questions I've thought of have been asked, so I might have to do basically expanding on some of the stuff we've already talked about. So there may be a bit of repetition. We had some testimony yesterday from some different international experts, and in particular from Great Britain. They're watching us quite closely. And again, we're getting competing testimony from different corners about how to go ahead with this. One of the things pointed out is that, this is a fairly new thing we're doing. Only one nation on earth has ever legalized this on a national level. We're number 2. And we've heard a lot of evidence saying that we should take a cautious, stepwise approach. And we are committed to regulating edibles. We just haven't started with that yet. And we understand that, Colorado had some challenges. So, Mr. Vigil, I understand you had challenges with edibles in the beginning. Could you expand on some of the problems you had with edibles at the initial rollout, and whether you agree it's a good idea for us to be rolling this out more gradually?
Well, really our primary concern initially was seeing an increase in calls to the Poison Center and emergency department visits, and in particular among younger age groups. We had a few cases of overconsumption leading to accidents, and so that was the impetus to try to increase regulation. As to the delay in rolling it out, 288 days, was that it? That doesn't seem like enough time for you to get all of the edible regulations together. I'm not a legislator, so I don't know, but I guess I would recommend erring on the side of giving it more time to not only to work on the legislation, but also for other jurisdictions like Colorado and the other states in the United States that have legalized to continue to learn more. I mentioned that we've seen for 1 year some decrease in those numbers. We'd like to see what happens with the data that's coming up next spring, and the more of that information that you have, I think the better decisions that you can make.
Thank you very much. Dr. Landry, you talked about packaging yesterday. You want to make it non-appealing and child-proof for edibles, which I would agree. Now, we had a discussion yesterday regarding plain packaging and some of the precedents set in the tobacco industry, and particularly the success that Australia has had with decreasing smoking. Despite the misinformation from the tobacco industry about this, it does appear to have cut down smoking rates. So would you recommend, not just in edibles, but in basically all cannabis products, plain packaging, the way that we're going to be moving, the way Australia has and the way we're going to be moving with tobacco?
I think it would be very wise to learn from the lessons of tobacco and alcohol regulation for cannabis, very clearly. Recognizing the harms with overconsumption, recognizing the harms with advertising, it's all relevant here, and it seems silly to recreate the wheel for cannabis, but rather to learn and to use alcohol and tobacco regulation as a model for how to best roll out cannabis. And then also to look at what's currently being done in Uruguay or in the states in the U.S. that have already legalized non-medicinal use. So you have models there, you have regulations on the books in those states and in Uruguay. Look at what they've done, talk to them about what their limitations are. If they could go back and change it, what would they do? And then potentially you could come up with a maybe slightly improved model. The key here is that you really need to establish that, and you have to have confidence in what your unit dose is going to be and how you're going to test and do the quality control. I think if you solve those issues, then the rest of it should kind of fall in place.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Davies, last question.
Mr. Davis?
Mr. Davies?